everyone, and welcome to the Midnight Post. Today, we're going to have Thorin missing in action. He is kind of taking this week off. He had some stuff he was dealing with at home, so I am actually doing the interview solo this week, and we are graced with the presence of Anu Vlad. He has a channel on YouTube that's gaining popularity pretty quickly, so I wanted to have him on and chat about some stuff. How's it going?
Eh.
If you watch his content, you know that's about par for the course here in terms of his enthusiasm. But he has like that striking. He impales people basically is kind of his gimmick, and also a hardcore smoker.
Gimmick.
Well, I guess your channel's not
That,
really a
that
gimmick, is it?
impalement is a labor of love. It's not a gimmick.
Yeah. So your channel basically deals with what sort of things? Magic the Gathering. Do you say SJWs?
Uh, well, it's not really Magic the Gathering, even though I partake in that community. Um, but no, it's primarily a channel focused around philosophy type subjects and anti SJW esque content. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, that kind of actually fits in perfectly with what we're talking about today. Um, so I know you have kind of a
Oh, and
background.
ranting in a bathroom.
Yeah,
Sorry, I forgot about that part.
popular series there. So I know you have a background in astrology to an extent. You practice it for, well, I don't even know if you could say practiced it, but you studied it for a little while. So I want to chat with you today about the legitimacy of these horoscopes that we find in our newspapers or I guess nowadays Facebook and wherever. So um, astrology has been around since the 4th century BC, I believe. And people like as high name as Plato, I can't remember if it was Socrates. I don't remember exactly, but some pretty high names were in there, and it's kind of surprising to see those. But so what do you think about astrology in general?
Well, first and foremost, for the record, I've never really liked Plato. Secondly, more than that, what do I think about astrology? In a nutshell, I think it's pseudoscientific nonsense. So it's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Okay, and I know a lot of people actually trust in these horoscopes like on a daily basis, or their daily
Actually,
horoscope.
yeah, I'm going to expand on that horoscope point, the whole daily horoscope thing. All right, so even people who take astrology seriously, people who make a living, kind of like psychics, make a living telling people their life and all of that using astrology. Even a lot of them, and although I should say what I'm about to say is purely anecdotal, but even a lot of them will straight up tell you that your newspaper horoscope is purely and entirely nonsensical and is about as valid as a fortune cookie.
So how do they get these daily horoscopes? Like, where do they come from? Do people just make them up?
Yeah, pretty much. The astrology quite literally has almost nothing to do with how your day is going to go, at least as far as I understand it. And I know that they have this other thing, which is like a Farmers Almanac, which a lot of people, especially, a lot of your crazy far right leaning, crazy farmers will sit there and use the Farmers Almanac and like, oh my God, it's going to snow today because like something to do with fucking Jupiter. And the thing is it just seems made up. There's like no, in my mind, I can't find any correlation between what it says in Daily Horoscope, what it says in the Farmer's Almanac, and anything to do with anybody's personality or astrology in general. Which uh, I don't know. Like I know that a lot of those same people who swear by the Farmer's Almanac are the same people that'll tell you that astrology is the devil.
Of
So
course.
And then again, this is purely anecdotal, but this is just from what I've seen in my neck of the woods, as they put it.
Hmm. So, if I understood you correctly, the Farmers Almanac is actually based in astrology as well, to an extent.
Oh no, it will straight up say like astrological signs in it and shit. Like today is the day of Gemini or whatever, and because of that, it's going to be windy or something to that effect. It's it's very weird. And this is because in astrology you have four um, what's the term I'm looking for here? You have four elements. You have, the four elements: water, fire, uh, air, and earth. And so basically, if the day happens to fall on something like Scorpio, which is a water sign, well, naturally it's going to say something attributed to precipitation.
Huh. Wow. Yeah, I always grew up with the Farmers Almanac, not really following it, but you would hear about it occasionally. Kind of in a smaller town, um, you would hear that like, oh, this winter is going to be really bad, and then it never is. It'll maybe snow one time. So, just growing up, I could tell the Farmers Almanac was not really the most accurate thing in the world.
Oh yeah, like whenever on the local news around here, it used to say the meteorologists used to have a little competition with the Farmers Almanac. So to be like, so we say this, and the Farmers Almanac says this, so we'll see which one's correct. So they would constantly like quote the Farmers Almanac. I believe it was KY3 that was doing it,
Wow, that's funny.
which I thought was hilarious,
Yeah,
actually. But then they stopped. I think
hmm.
people got butthurt.
Yeah, yeah, it could be. I mean that the whole southern Missouri area is just all farmers, and I mean I guess even northern Missouri, Iowa, everywhere in this area, but Kansas, obviously. Um, okay, so I know that you used to be into it. You used to have books about it, all this sort of stuff. So,
They still do.
what first got you into it to begin with?
I wasn't really what you would say into it. I was curious,
Okay.
because you hear about it a lot. You hear a lot of people like to wrap you up based on that. It becomes kind of an identity or a label that people uh, attach to you.
Yeah.
And the thing is so like you keep hearing whatever your sign is over and over again, you become curious. And I learned a lot of things by digging into it. But ultimately, yeah, I just really wanted to know what everybody was talking about, and I was curious as to whether or not it had any relevance, primarily due to the fact that I felt that it was strange that something that is seemingly to so many so relevant isn't something that's utilized in our modern medical sciences.
Yeah, that's a good point. So you were into it for a while, and then you kind of just abandoned it. So was there like one defining moment that caused you to say like, "Hey, this is just all garbage," or was it kind of like what was the realization?
Yeah, what was that was the moment whenever I realized it's the extent of its usefulness was to get laid. Women really love to hear you tell them about themselves. But more than that, it was whenever I was going around and testing it. So I would start telling people things that were contrary to what it said that they were. And interestingly enough, a lot of things seem to apply to a lot of people. Um, that was not exactly the things that was supposed to be attributed to it. So, like for instance, if somebody was a Taurus, I would tell them Pisces, read them Pisces, and then whatever. And the thing is, a lot about people is what a lot of people do is they think of themselves in the most idealistic way possible. So whenever you start saying positive things about them, they are put in a position where they're not going to be like, no, no, that's not me. I don't really think I'm a very compassionate person. I don't think that I could fall in love easily. I don't think that I'm a nice guy. Like they're not going to do that in most cases. Um, and That was ultimately uh, what it boiled down to. Furthermore, what's even more interesting is what took it even further for me was that there's more to it than just I'm this or that. Um, an example of this is you have Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars are the supposed to be the major personality positions, or not positions, but planets. So your sun is supposed to be who you are. And oh, you also have ascendant, which is another one. Actually, has to do with your time of birth and place and stuff, but that's how you appear. So you have your sun sign, which is who you are. You have your ascendant, which is how you appear, and then you have like your Mars, which is yeah, primarily, if I remember correctly, anyway, your passions and stuff like that. So it starts becoming contradictory after you start adding to all these layers.
Right.
Then you'll start finding contradictory points. Like on one level, it might say that you're passionate, and then you'll read something else in the next planet, and then it'll say that you're the opposite of compassionate. And it's like, well, I either am or I'm not. Like, which
Yeah.
one is it? And so this is kind of the point that I'm trying to get across. And these are things that, because it's cold reading, nobody's going to catch the contradictions when you're reading it to them, because all that matters to them is the things that hit rather than those that miss.
Yeah, it's funny when I would have people tell me my horoscope or whatever, or my sign. They would describe to me and they would say, "Oh, you're this, 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 and this." I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm not really the first or second thing, but I'm kind of the third and fourth thing, I guess, kind of." And then you just kind of cherry pick what's relatable to you, and then throw the rest away, and just be like, "Oh, well, it must have been off just a little bit." So, I mean, I could definitely see how people would fall into that and just take it and run with it, because I mean, people get tattoos for their signs, like they wear it proudly, like, oh, I'm an Aries, I like to fight people, I'm very fiery and passionate and all that stuff. I think they use that as almost
Yeah.
a crutch or an excuse.
Hmm. Kind of like Myers Briggs. There's some people in my little circles that get offended when I say that. But
so
no.
so you compared it to cold reading it a little bit. Can you expand on that? I mean, it's kind of, is it one of the seals where it's just vague enough to apply to everyone?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a lot of it. Yeah. I mean, if I walked up to you and said, "Wow, you're a smart guy," it's the most vague. Like, how are you smart? In
Right.
what way? I mean, and that's kind of the point here. It doesn't ever expand on any of its, shall we say, compliments.
Right.
Um, Now, keep in mind, it'll say negative things too. It doesn't just say positive things. It's not like, astrology is just a bunch of rainbows and cookies. There are some negative things that it tries to apply to you.
Which makes
But
it
yeah,
more
like it's
believable,
cold
right?
reading. Oh yeah, and with the cold reading thing, it's vague and applies to everybody, in some fashion. Because the thing is most people don't think about the levels of what they are either. You'll find the majority of people are about as introspective as pack of cigarettes. So the thing is because of that, um, I can sit there and attribute whatever I want to you. Uh, I can make a vague term and let you fill in the dots. I can see something so vague and miss entirely, and then yet your brain force it to be true because it's just that vague.
Yeah, and just to explain cold reading for anybody who might not know, that's basically kind of a technique that a lot of psychics use, quote unquote psychics, to basically make you think that they know what they're talking about. Like, oh, I see you have a loved one who's passed away. Maybe they were older. Maybe it was a grandparent. See, they're just vague enough to be like, oh yeah, Grandpa John, he passed away 5 years ago. He must be talking about him. That kind of thing. So, um, like you said, it kind of applies to the horoscope the same way. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it definitely does not. I don't see how the position of the stars is really going to affect you as a person? Like, you would think, I mean, we're
Well,
all on the Earth, so you'd think we'd all be in the same sign. I mean, as big as space is.
it's not really. It has nothing really to do with the stars, though. I mean, that it's mostly to do with the planets.
Okay.
The names of the signs are named after uh, what's the term I'm looking for here?
Like
Sorry, I'm like half out of it
constellations?
today. Constellations. There we go. My brain said constipations for some reason, and anyway, no, yeah, it's named after those, and that's about the only relevance it really has to stars. Outside of that, it's just. I mean, it's where the stars were, if I remember correctly. Anyway, it's where the stars were in conjunction with whatever planet at the time of your birth.
Oh,
So, but it's not really the stars themselves as much as the planet. From my understanding,
okay.
because it uses the planet thing, it just overemphasizes it, and this is, I think, primarily due to the. See, the thing is about Western astrology is it's actually a culmination of too many things. It's a culmination of too many cultures. It's a culmination of Greek and Roman culture, which actually, for all practical purposes, is effectively the same. And like think about it. All right. For instance, Ares. All right, god of war. Right.
Yeah.
But in ancient Greek. But then Mars is the planet, but which is actually the same god. You
Oh,
see what I'm
yeah.
getting at?
Yeah.
It's so weird. Like, why are you combining these two things together? These two cultures? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So, like, and that's where, for me, it gets confusing. And then also, like, the Romans or
Uh-oh.
and the Greeks, same version of the same.
Minor connection issues. We're back now, though.
Oh, well, as I don't know if I should repeat myself.
Just the
I don't know
very end,
what
like the
got
last
kind of
10
cut
seconds
off.
there.
Oh, what we're using today, or what people are using today, as far as astrology is concerned, is not the same astrology that was being utilized back in its supposed advent. Not at all. So,
So,
it wouldn't make any sense if you were Roman. You'd be like, so it would be really confusing, right? Because you would be like, so my Mars is in my Mars. See,
yeah.
which doesn't sound as good as Aries and Mars. So then you'd have to say Mars and Mars.
Yeah.
You get like it would be confusing. It wouldn't make any sense.
So, what about stuff like the Chinese zodiac? Is that kind of the same thing?
No, I mean, kind of. After Mars, you start getting into generational shit, which is whatever, like Pluto, Saturn, etc. They're all generational.
Okay. Yeah, I had to ask because you was going to the.
Chinese astrology is also, from what I've seen primarily, it's generational.
Okay. Yeah, because we always go to those Chinese restaurants and they have like under the glass plate on top of the table they have the Chinese zodiac and you could be like, oh, I was born in the year of the snake or the year of the dragon or whatever. It kind of seems
Yeah,
like
I'm
the
an
same
earth
thing.
snake.
You're a what? An earth
An
snake?
earth snake.
Wouldn't that be like?
Yeah.
Yeah. At first I was gonna say, wouldn't that be like a worm? But then I was like, oh wait, no, it's not. I guess that's not quite the same thing. I mean, all snakes are from
It
Earth, right?
totally
So
is.
I totally missed the joke on that one. If I was,
No, no. Some are from space. No, I mean they have different. So you have the snake, right? And then
hmm
you have different subsets of that for
oh,
each
okay,
progressing generation. So if mine happens to be Earth Snake.
okay, we might have the same one actually, because you were in June and I was July of the same year, correct? So
Yeah.
okay, so I'm an Earth snake as well. What a revelation! My life has
Oh,
changed.
and one interesting fact about astrology, just real quick. Um, Everything has changed. So you have, like a person would call me a Gemini, right? But I'm not a Gemini because since then it's all shifted. It's been a long time, right? So I actually wouldn't be a Gemini. I would be the next one on the left
Okay.
because it shifted. The problem with astrology is it hasn't actually adapted with the changing of with the information gathered through astronomy. It
Huh.
hasn't changed. It's the same thing. So it's all off. So everybody who like this is actually where I learned that from was actually Bill Nye. So everything that that they call you isn't accurate. They're off. They're off by one entire sign.
Wow. Huh. Yeah, this is one of those things you would have never known. So, like, it's not like an imprint right when you're born. It actually just kind of applies to wherever things are at now in the universe.
Well, I mean, it applies to wherever it's at. At I guess it's weird. It's pretty much whenever you're born, you have all of these signs that are attached to you based on what's going on uh, at that time, and those things change. So if you're born at a specific time, and also keep in mind the planets are always moving around in circles and all that other stuff, so it's not stagnant. And astrology runs off the assumption that it is,
Huh.
but the things move. So the sky thousands of years ago isn't the same sky we see today. The
Right.
sky we saw in the 1900s isn't the same sky we see today.
I
Things
see.
change, the whole galaxy moves, the planets move. Like they
Yeah.
don't go in a perfect circle. It's impossible. So things expand and move. And astrology runs off the assumption that it's completely stagnant.
Hmm.
And whenever you're born at a specific time, that that the planets will always be in one of 12 places. The stars will always be aligned in one of 12 places because there's 12 signs, you know. But the thing is where you fall on those change because they're not always in the same places. After
Wow.
so the whole thing shifts every, I think, like 1,000 years, or maybe it's a million years. I can't even remember the exact time now,
Yeah.
but should have done a little bit of reading to catch myself
Well, that's all
up.
right.
But no,
I think we've still learned quite a bit that we didn't know before. Did you have any final thought you want to squeeze in here? We're just about out of time.
oh, wow, that was quick. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. My final thought is just if anybody wants to really, go into it, there's a whole episode on. I believe it's on pseudoscience is the name of the episode. Eyes of Nye. It was the name of the show. It's an older show. It came out shortly after the Bill Nye the Science Guy thing. And in that
Okay.
episode, he expands on astrology a little bit, and in places, and says what I just said. And then also, I would say anybody who watches, who believes in astrology, to go on the internet and read the rebuttals. And if you can't refute even one claim, one rebuttal, well, then you should it should at least drive you to question, whether or not what you're believing in is it all accurate.
Hmm.
We only live once. There's no sense in believing in nonsense.
Yeah. Very, very good point. Well, I want to thank you for being on the show and really kind of enlightening us on this subject. We're going to have you back for sure because there's a lot I would love to kind of pick your brain about. But if fans want to see more of your stuff, where can they find you at?
They can go on the tube, as I'm calling it now, because tube TVs are apparently out, and and just type in Anu Anu Vlad VLAD, and you'll find me there, where I'll just sit around in a bathroom and rant at you.
And you have a website as well, don't you?
Yeah, it's anuvlad.com.
Cool. Nice and easy. All
I
right.
also have a Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they can follow me there at Anu Vlad. Basically, I'm the only one on the planet named Anu Vlad, as it seems.
Well, that's perfect, and it's easy to find. So, yeah, perfect. Very nice.
Yep.
But all right. Well, thanks again for being on the show. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we will see you next week.